Certainly, the Diddy trial has a lot of people in the entertainment industry scared to death, because as more things continue to come out about the things that happened with Diddy, with the people Diddy knows, with his friends, with his acquaintances, with his business partners, it looks more and more nefarious and more degenerate and disgusting every single thing that comes out.
All right, everyone, we need to discuss Sean Diddy Combs, as his situation has taken a turn for the worse. The music mogul's legal troubles have deepened after his attorney unexpectedly withdrew from the case. Think about that for a moment.
One of the lawyers representing Sean Diddy Combs in his trafficking case is quitting. Anthony Rico filed notice in Manhattan federal court.
An attorney representing Sean Diddy Combs in this trafficking case announced that he is stepping down as counsel.
One of Diddy's lawyers has just quit, and not just any lawyer, but the same one who once defended a close associate of Bin Laden. Let that sink in. This attorney has handled some of the most notorious cases in history, yet even he's backing out of Diddy's case. It's a clear sign. When even those who specialize in defending the indefensible don't want to touch you, things have gone south. The situation is looking grim for the music mogul.
The lawyer might have found out that their client's crimes were much, much worse than they expected, like so bad that they just can't morally stick with the case and they gotta go. That might be the reason, because as far as we know, you and I, Diddy's crimes are terrible, but his lawyers know much more than what we know. They know how far Diddy might have went. So Anthony, Diddy's lawyer who left, might have seen something he didn't want to see and said, look, I can't even work with bro anymore.
Now, this particular defense attorney's reason for quitting wasn't really a reason at all, making his departure a lot more puzzling.
So, what's really happening behind the scenes? Why did this attorney walk away, and what does it mean for Diddy's case going forward? Let's unpack it. If you think this is just speculation, Stephen A. Smith just confirmed what we've all suspected. It's not just about a lawyer quitting, this is about the entire narrative surrounding Diddy unraveling right before our eyes. Things are falling apart fast.
Rico, who was retained by Combs in September, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Combs has 5 other attorneys on his team, end quote. Let me say this. Anytime an attorney backs out, that's not a good look. Now, there could be a variety of reasons as to why this happened, and we all get that. I understand that. But anytime an attorney backs out, particularly of a high-profile case like this, is not a good look, and I'm going to tell y'all why. Because if you are an attorney, the more acclaim your client has, the more popularity your client has, the more recognition and notoriety your client has, the more you benefit from a positive outcome in favor of that client. So that client, if Sean Diddy Combs gets off trafficking and racketeering charges and the jury finds him not guilty months from now, and he's able to walk out the courtroom a free man, you know how good that makes those attorneys look? Everybody will be clamoring for the cameras. Every single one of them. They'll be going crazy. They'll all be clamoring for the cameras. So I'm saying all of that to you to say, if that's the case, let's understand what we're talking about here. Okay? It's very, very important that we do that. An attorney walking away, sometimes it's because they don't get the lead chair or one of the lead chairs. Sometimes it's because a client is lying. Sometimes it's because they believe wholeheartedly that the client is going to be guilty and they don't want to be associated with that guilt because that's a loss on their record. It could be a variety of things, but the fact that we are speculating about that when the trial date hasn't even started yet concerns me, because I'm one of those people, ladies and gentlemen, who firmly believes it's virtually impossible to find a jury that's not contaminated by some kind of information that's been put out to the public before a trial begins. I'm not one of those that believes that. May 5th is May 5th. I mean, come on now. That's more than 2 months away. Jury ain't been selected yet. You trying to tell me nobody that's on the jury will have heard that a lawyer backed out of the case? I don't know about y'all, but I find that that's not a good thing for Sean Diddy Combs, for something like that to happen. That's not a good thing. What's good is if you fire the dude. But if the dude fires you as a client, even if you got 5 other lawyers, and that was the first dude you went to when you retained the services in September, That's not a good look.
When a case goes public, the jury isn't just swayed by courtroom events. They're influenced by everything the media has released beforehand. Right now, the image of Diddy being portrayed is potentially career-ending. What's worse is that the reason his attorney quit isn't even valid, adding more fuel to the fire surrounding his case.
Anthony, in a court filing on Friday, said he's leaving the case. In the filing, Anthony Rico said, quote, "For the reasons set forth below, this motion for withdrawals is filed so that Sean Combs may move forward with his defense and to commence jury selection and trial without any delay. As a result of discussion with lead counsel Mark Agnifilo, this motion for withdrawal of counsel is filed. While I am aware that the local rule requires an application for withdrawal of counsel is supported and granted, there are sufficient reasons related to protections afforded by the attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case. Although I have provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs," end quote. Now, essentially in legalese, I quit, but I can't go into details because of attorney-client privilege.
Legal experts point to Diddy's defense strategy as a key factor in his legal troubles. He's doubling down on racial persecution claims while also suggesting Cassie asked for it, two difficult positions to argue in court, making his case even harder.
It's significant because Anthony Rico was someone that Sean Combs was clearly comfortable with. He also grew up in Harlem, and he would often sit next to Sean Combs, kind of keep him calm during court proceedings. And here Rico is now very experienced litigator, represented death row inmates, represented Al-Qaeda defendants, represented cops in the killing of Sean Bell here in New York, an experienced lawyer who now says, for reasons really unknown, that he can no longer represent Sean Combs.
But we do have ethical obligations as to why we'd have to back out of representing someone. For example, I can defend someone if you commit a crime, but I can't help you further a crime. I can't put forward a legal argument that I know is insufficient or illegal. And so there's certain barriers as to why an attorney must back out, would feel to back out, and why a judge would agree with that if they feel that their own obligations to that client aren't being met. There's also, if they feel like the legal advice that they're giving them is appropriate and the client is not taking it and it's going to lead them down a wrong path, there are multiple different ethical reasons that may not be the reason here, but it's a broad list as to why someone would do that.
And Diddy put forth two arguments recently. One, that he's the victim of a racist prosecution, and the other is that Cassie Ventura was asking for it. And those are tough defense arguments to make in front of a jury. Maybe Anthony Rico didn't want to be part of those.
Things are looking even worse for Diddy, as President Trump has hinted at releasing the names on Epstein's infamous list to the media. This could be catastrophic for Diddy's already weakening case. Once those names become public, Diddy will be guilty in the court of public opinion, and no PR team could possibly control the fallout from such a massive narrative explosion. The damage would be irreversible.
Very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But, yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to release the Epstein list. President Trump is the only person that actually fought on behalf of the victims against Jeffrey Epstein in Palm Beach when he actually caught a case. Jeffrey Epstein was put in prison and was found guilty, much like Diddy is about to be found guilty, and he's currently in prison for similar crimes.
Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, Trump's Department of Defense Chief of Staff, Kash Patel, revealed startling details about potential declassification plans, adding even more fuel to the already explosive situation.
Give the American people the truth. And that's what they feared about Donald Trump. He's going to come in there and maybe give him the Epstein list and maybe give him the P. Diddy list. You know, he's going to come up there and maybe do all these things, and they are terrified.
Yeah, I believe that's part of the reason why Jimmy Kimmel was crying last night on his program. But also, I believe that this is something that the American public desperately...
That's right. Similar to the infamous Epstein list that rocked Hollywood and Washington, there's reportedly a Diddy list that could create complete chaos. If made public, it would send shockwaves through the industry. Meanwhile, Diddy's remaining legal team is scrambling behind the scenes, making bold moves. Sources say his attorneys are pushing aggressively to reveal the identities of witnesses and victims, a strategy that's raising eyebrows in legal circles. They argue that Diddy needs these names to prepare for trial, but many see it for what it truly is, a desperate intimidation tactic.
Just last week, the defense submitted another letter, and now they're saying they want witnesses' names as well. Writing, the government has produced over 20 terabytes of information, and it is impossible to do a proper defense investigation as to the allegations in the Enterprise letter in less than 2 months without the names of the individuals, both alleged victims and potential witnesses who are listed in the Enterprise letter. Now, that Enterprise letter is very, very important.
The prosecution isn't backing down, rejecting Diddy's motion with a scathing response that's getting attention from legal experts. Given Diddy's alleged history of witness tampering, this decision came as little surprise to many in the legal community.
The government writes in response to the defendant's letter asking the court to rule on its motion for a bill of particulars originally filed on October 15th, 2024. The government continues to oppose the motion, which was originally styled as a request for a bill of particulars identifying victims and has now been apparently broadened to encompass not only victim names, but also the names of a large number of potential government witnesses. The defendant provides no persuasive basis for his request, which in any event will be fully satisfied when the government provides the information on the schedule already set by the court, and the request should accordingly be denied. They go on to write, for the reasons set forth in detail in the government's October 30th, 2024 opposition to the motion, premature identification of victims and witnesses carries significant risks in a case like this one, which involves numerous allegations of violence, coercion, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering.
Sources close to the case reveal a chilling detail. When Diddy applied for bail, his alleged victims were reportedly terrified at the thought of him potentially walking free, fearing what might happen next.
Is your client fearful if Diddy does get out?
As you know, I represent other clients, actual victims who have sued Mr. Combs, Diddy, in civil court, and all of them are very apprehensive about their safety if he were to be granted bond.
Can you really blame them? Court documents suggest Diddy has a long history of using his power, connections, and resources to silence anyone who might speak out against him. The idea of him walking free while knowing their identities is a terrifying prospect for these witnesses. This is exactly why prosecutors fought so hard against revealing witness names. If these victims were already so fearful at the thought of Diddy getting bail, imagine the horror if their identities were exposed before trial despite their pleas for privacy. Many witnesses, after years of silence, are reportedly growing tired of staying quiet. The dam is starting to break. Industry insiders who worked closely with Diddy are now speaking out with explosive allegations, shedding light on what really happened behind closed doors. According to multiple sources with direct knowledge, Diddy regularly paid for women to be flown in for recording sessions, specifically for sexual encounters.
And it wasn't uncommon to fly women in from around the country. Well, not around the country, but they could be like 2 or 3 hour flight away, type of thing. To have people in the studio.
So it wasn't uncommon to fly women in to have studio.
Mm-hmm.
Did that happen on more than one occasion?
A couple. Usually, they had a specialty in a certain little. If they have specialty in something, yeah, they would be flown in.
And you would be asked to do that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why were they asking you?
Well, book a flight?
Because you were the finance man.
Yeah. It was coming out of the budget, so. If you're the studio and you're recording, this is going to sound horrible, but, you pay for a flight for a woman to come into the studio is the same as like ordering food to the studio.
Because the lady was making so much money back then.
Yeah, it's just sure.
I mean, how much money do you think was spent on these flights, on bringing people in?
Oh, to be honest with you, I mean probably like thousands of dollars.
I mean, what would you even expense it under? Like how would you find under?
Diddy's legal troubles continue to escalate in a bombshell development that's sending shockwaves through the entertainment world. On Monday, he was hit with a fresh wave of lawsuits accusing him of horrific acts, including assaulting women and inappropriately touching a 16-year-old boy. Let that sink in. At least 6 new lawsuits were filed against him in federal court in Manhattan, adding to the already significant pile of legal claims against the embattled hip-hop mogul. While Diddy denies all allegations, the sheer volume of accusations is hard to ignore. Court documents reveal many victims claim Diddy used his fame and promises of stardom to lure them into lavish parties or drug-fueled hangouts, where things allegedly turn nightmarish. Some women claim he physically assaulted them, while others say he threatened to eliminate them if they didn't comply or speak out. Meanwhile, Diddy's remaining lawyers are scrambling to find ways to counter the damning video evidence, but as time passes, their options, and their client's reputation, are deteriorating quickly.
The defense have said.
So what the defense has done is they're taking an interesting tack, and I think the legal analysis is becoming fascinating. And they're saying if you look at these videos, this shows a consensual relationship. If you listen. The great thing for them, for their defense about that is that's in the past. All the folks on social media and so forth are saying, well, these people are drugged. They're saying they're drugged. Don't forget. It's easy to prove the court of public opinion, but when you get into an actual court, the federal government has approved their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And someone just getting on the stand and saying, I was drugged, the defense can ask a very simple question. Where's the drug test? Where's the proof? You just saying it now, there's a lot that's going to happen. And I understand where the defense is going. They're like, this is consent. And if it is consensual, but maybe old freak-off parties aren't illegal. What's illegal is the trafficking aspect of this case, and they're saying there is no trafficking. Always was going to be the defense, always.
Well, look, we can't say who victim 1 is as the BBC because the prosecution have not announced who victim 1 is. The defense have defined them as somebody who had a consensual relationship with Sean Combs, and they are still participating, they're giving evidence to the grand jury. They've said it's consensual. I mean, how do you prove that?
Well, don't forget, here's the great thing about it. We're innocent until proven guilty. It's not how do they prove it, it's how does the government disprove it. So if you're the defense and you're showing the video, they're just like, well, look at the video. The cross-examination is going to be intense. And by that, I mean from the defense. Because, of course, what's going to happen is the prosecution gets to put their witness on first, whoever it may be. And this female who had the relationship with Mr. Combs is going to get on the stand. I guarantee you she's going to be emotional. She is going to cry. She's going to talk about this relationship. She's going to talk about the fact that she was forced to do things she didn't want to do. She's going to say this in a very good way. That's evident. The cross-examination is going to be withering. It is going to take this video frame by frame. This is you with a smile on your face. In this video, anywhere whatsoever, do you say no? In this video, you are seen walking in this way. It doesn't appear that you are on drugs at any point in time. The cross-examination is going to be withering. And so everybody who is just reading, it's one thing to read evidence that we have half and half of it, but it's another thing to have a witness on the stand who is going to talk about the fights in the relationship, the fact, the money that she got, the things that she got. When we define cases, when we do case initiative, what we always say is a witness's credibility takes the stand with.
The secrets keep coming, with disturbing details emerging about the baby oil seized by Homeland Security during their raid on Diddy's properties, adding yet another troubling layer to the ongoing investigation.
Now, we know at least what one of the accusers in a civil lawsuit,
a brand new accuser,
a brand new one, is saying the purpose of the baby oil, and it's not what we thought.
No, this accuser, who is filed as a John Doe, says that the baby oil was laced, and that the purpose of placing the baby oil on people involved in these freak-offs
was to drug them.
Right.
And that according to this lawsuit, that Diddy would have the person slather baby oil all over them that is laced with some substance. We don't know whether he's talking about GHB or something like that. We just don't know. But it would render the person kind of semi-conscious, I suppose.
Yeah, the way it's laid out in this lawsuit is a man who says he met Diddy back in 2007. He was a Vegas adult male entertainer, said he was retained for dances and so forth, but then it turned into sort of these parties that we've heard all about. And he says the baby oil was slathered all over him to the point that it was dripping off. And he says after it was applied, he began to feel drowsy, disoriented, all of those things, and became more sort of pliable to do this sort of things that Diddy was directing him to do, according to the lawsuit.
As he says, Diddy watched. We're not going to get more specific. It's about as graphic as it gets based on this lawsuit. But suffice it to say, Diddy was up close and personal watching.
It's extremely graphic, and as you pointed out, the feds pointed out those 1,000 bottles of baby oil. That's mentioned in the criminal indictment, but never further than that. It sounded like kink shaming, sort of maybe he was into baby oil, but there's no crime involved with that. It looked like it was just a pot shot at Diddy. If this is part of the forensics of what they gathered from his compound during those raids, it's going to add an entirely new dimension to this.
And it doesn't stop there. Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, has re-entered the conversation, making explosive claims that could change hip-hop history. Deal now suggests that Diddy may have been involved in the deadly incident that led to the murder of Notorious B.I.G.
What Deal said, because when he was asked about Combs and Biggie, he remarks, so did he directly have something to do with it? He could have. And he bases that off of his perception that Combs was maybe acting a little weird leading up to the 24-year-old's death. He says on the show, the week which Biggie was murdered, he was just acting real anxious and trying to get big at this party. And what's crazy was Big was telling people he had to be in London, but Puff was telling people he ain't going to London that whole week. So you fast forward to the day of the party, and Deal says, I'm sitting up at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I get a phone call. It's about 9 o'clock. And they say, Gene, get ready, we going to the Vibe party. I was like, we going to this party? We don't have no security. But according to Deal, he tried to warn Combs that
although these shocking allegations about Biggie's death may seem unrelated, they could indirectly affect the trial in unexpected ways, adding complexity to an already tense situation.
This probably wasn't a good idea. He says, yo, Puff, I got some intel, bruh. He said, what? I said, yo, man, if we go to this party tonight, one of us going to get killed. Somebody going to die. Because now we at East Coast, West Coast beef. He said, yo, Gene, I don't want to hear that S, so we all jump in.
While these shocking allegations regarding Biggie's death might appear unrelated, they could have an indirect impact on the trial in unforeseen ways, further complicating an already tense situation.
I think the name Notorious B.I.G. is going to come up in his criminal trial at all? I don't think so.
I don't think this. I don't think this is going to have anything to do with his criminal trial.
Right.
But it's got everything to do with jury selection. It's got and it's got everything to do with just where he stands in the eyes of the public and perhaps his jury as he starts a trial.
Because in other words, what you're saying is this documentary, these words, that could taint a future jury.
There's no question about it. I mean, people watch these shows. I mean, some of these shows are great, obviously, and people watch them. And now they come into this trial, not only with the allegations that are made against him in the indictment, but the idea that he might have been a party to a murder. And so it's dangerous for the defense just in terms of jury selection. And this is going to be something that they're going to have to use in jury selection to see if anybody's watched these documentaries, listen to them. And these will be jurors they're going to have to strike, as they try to prepare for this trial.
The situation is looking dire for Diddy, with the cards stacked against him from every angle. It seems his attorney, Rico, understood the gravity of the situation and bailed before it completely collapsed. Each day, the once untouchable music mogul's empire continues to crumble, and those who stayed silent for so long are now finding the courage to speak out. I want to know what you think about these shocking developments. Do you believe more celebrities will be exposed when the alleged Diddy list goes public? Drop a comment below with your thoughts. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to stay updated on the latest celebrity drama. We're giving you the real stories that others are too afraid to cover. Turn on post notifications so you won't miss the next explosive